Hey guys, David Franklin here with Cartersville Uncut, and I'm with Dr. Scott Shepard. He's the pastor at Brandon's Chapel Baptist Church out in the Stylesboro community, but he just got a doctorate on one of Cartersville's most famous people, Scott, Sam Jones, and we're standing here at his house.
Sam Jones, Samuel Porter Jones, David, got his middle name Porter from his mother. That was her maiden name. Samuel Porter Jones was born October the 16th, 1847 in Oak Bowery, Alabama, David, Chambers County, Alabama. And at the age of 5, Sam Jones was not required to give a speech in school, but he wanted to give a speech with the older children, so he memorized a speech, and when it came time for his speech, this is what he said at the age of 5: "You would scarce expect someone of my age to speak in public from the stage, but in coming years and in thundering tones, the world will hear of Sam P. Jones." Not bad for a 5-year-old,
That's
right?
impressive, isn't it?
Not bad for a 5-year-old. 4 years later, his mother died. Devastated him, as it would any little boy or any little girl to lose your mother at 9 years old. His father, in time, would remarry a lady named Jeannie Skinner and would move from Oak Bowery, Alabama, here to Cartersville. The Civil War broke out. Sam Jones was left here really unattended. He had a stepmother, but his father's all fighting in the Civil War. And he fell in with kind of a questionable crowd. And he began to social drink, even at a young age. And one of the pranks that he pulled here in Cartersville was he rode a mule one time into church while they were having service. Down the center aisle, around the pulpit, back down the center aisle. People were hooting and hollering. And they said, "Sam, what were you thinking? I mean, what were you thinking to ride a mule into a church?" And he said, "Well, I just despise a dull time." He was just bored.
Scott, you ever had anybody ride a mule into a church?
I have not, thankfully.
I want you to know I've never done that either. What an unusual guy. You know, and here he is from Bartow County, from Cartersville, and people drive past Roselawn, because that's where we are, and they drive past, and most people don't even know the history. They know of Sam Jones Methodist Church, but they don't even know of Sam Jones. So we're going to be telling some of the life stories of Sam Jones. Matter of fact, he avoided Sherman and went up to Kentucky, didn't he?
That's right, David. It fell to him to take the horses that they had and to hide the horses so that Sherman and his troops would not get them as they were coming through Cartersville, as Sherman was making his famous march to the sea, burning all of Georgia. And he was going to meet his stepmother and his siblings at a rendezvous place, and they were going to escape Cartersville together. But unfortunately, they missed each other by just minutes, and Sam Jones was on his own as a young teenage boy, and he made his way up to Nashville, and then eventually went on up to Kentucky, where he had family. And while he was in Kentucky, he fell in love with a young lady named Laura McElwain from Henry County, Kentucky. The Civil War ended. Sam Jones comes back to Cartersville, and he studies to be a lawyer. His father was a lawyer. And in 1868, he is admitted into the Georgia bar. There's a judge, Judge Milner, tells his father, "John, you have the brightest boy ever admitted into the Georgia bar." He was just brilliant. He goes back to Kentucky, brings Laura down. They get married, starts out with such promise. They have a little girl. They name her Beulah. Unfortunately, Beulah passes away when she's about 21 months of age. Another devastating loss for Sam Jones. He lost his mother at 9. He loses his firstborn child, and Sam Jones becomes a full-blown alcoholic. And he can't practice law here in Cartersville. He has to take odd jobs around town, whatever he can do to feed his family. He drives a horse-drawn delivery wagon, they called a dray in those days. He worked at the Bartow mines, firing the furnaces. And his wife was a good Christian woman. She prayed for him, and she prayed for him, but the more she prayed, it seemed the worse he became.
Scott, let's pause right there, and let's do this. When we come back, we're going to kind of finish this story. How does a guy go from being an alcoholic to becoming one of the greatest preachers of his day and time? Scott, Sam Jones has had a huge impact on a lot of people, and the story is right here, and a lot of people in Bartow County hadn't heard it. But we're going to tell it to you. Scott's going to tell it because he's the expert on Sam Jones, our local expert. So we'll be right back and talk about what radical thing happened in Sam Jones's life that completely changed it.
Hey, Cartersville Uncut. Hey, it's springtime here in Georgia, and the temperatures are heating up, and so is the deals here at Treasure Chest. If you need a rocker to sit in on these nice, cool evenings in the springtime, we've got them. We've got good used furniture, tables, odds and ends. We've got new furniture. We've got a whole store of things that you can come in and spend an hour just looking through, picking out those things you might want. We're located at 927 North Tennessee Street. Come on by and see us. You just never know what you're going to find at Treasure Chest Outlet.
If you've been injured in an accident, call the Glenda Mitchell Law Firm.
Give us a call anytime. You'll talk directly to me.
Let this specialist in auto accidents fight for you. Call 770-694-1883 today.
Hey everybody, this is Kelly Jones with Kennesaw Transportation, and I have a job for you. We are always looking for good over-the-road drivers. We have teams, we have solos, we have a 2-day orientation that pays you $400, a $2,500 sign-on bonus, and we have a $10,000 seniority bonus for every 5 years. If you're looking for a new career, we can help you. If you're looking to change jobs, we can help you. Give me a call. Can't wait to hear from you. Thanks.
SOS Mattress. Best quality, best price, guaranteed. Where can you find a huge selection of high-end mattresses without paying high-end prices? SOS Mattress. Best quality, best price, guaranteed. Where can you save 50 to 80% off retail every day? SOS Mattress. Best quality, best price, guaranteed. We offer the lowest prices on the best name brand mattresses. SOS Mattress and Clearance Center on Highway 41 in Cartersville, 1 block south of Home Depot.
Guys, David Franklin here with Cartersville Uncut, and I'm with Dr. Scott Shepard, who's got his doctorate, just finished your doctorate on Sam Jones, one of the most famous people from Cartersville and Bartow County, and we're just kind of telling some stories about Sam Jones. What room are we in his house right now, Scott?
Sam, David, they call this Sam's library or Sam's parlor.
He was an unusual man and had a huge impact. Last thing we kind of ended with, he became an absolute alcoholic. Now listen, I heard he was so bad that he used to go lick the whiskey glasses. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He was a full-blown alcoholic in 1872.
And 1872, the reason he was an alcoholic, Scott, do I have it right? Just because of pain, he lost his mother, but he lost his daughter?
Yes.
You know, even today we still have people that struggle with tragedies in life and turning to different situations. That happens to Sam. What turned his life around?
David, in 1872, Sam Jones came face to face with a dying father. His father, John, who he loved and admired, was dying of tuberculosis. And he was on his deathbed, and he gathered his family in the room with him, and he was going around the room giving a final word to all of his family members before he left this world. And when he looked down into the face of his 25-year-old son, Sam Jones, he said, "My poor, wicked, wayward boy, you've broken the heart of your dear wife, and you're taking me down in sorrow to my grave. Promise me, my boy, that you'll meet me in heaven." And Sam Jones began to weep, and he said, "Father, I'll make you the promise. I'll quit. I'll quit. I'll quit." His father passed away. Sam Jones went to his grandfather's Methodist church. His grandfather was a Methodist minister, Samuel Gamble Jones. And he came forward and he gave his heart to the Lord Jesus Christ, was gloriously and radically saved. And within about a week, David, he told his grandfather, he said, I feel I'm being led into the ministry. Now, you would think that his wife would be thrilled that her alcoholic husband had been saved and was now called into the ministry. She was thrilled that he had been saved, but she was not thrilled that he was called into the ministry. She said, "I married a lawyer. I didn't marry a preacher." And he said, "Wife, I'm going to get on a train and I'm going to Atlanta to see if the North Georgia Methodist Conference will assign me a church." She said, "If you get on a train bound for Atlanta, I'm getting on a train bound for Kentucky. I married a lawyer. I didn't marry a preacher."
Hey, Scott, I know some other pastors whose wives have struggled with that, but anyway, go ahead.
Well, they had this discussion all week, David, and the night before he was supposed to leave by train, he said, "Wife, God has called me to preach, and I believe he'll remove any obstacle that stands in the way." She said, "Well, he'll have to remove me then." So they go to bed that night, and she wakes up in the middle of the night violently ill, and she thinks she's dying. And so first thing the next morning, she's beside his bed, shaking him, saying, Sam, get up, get up. I've made you breakfast. You don't want to miss that train. I really thought that God was going to remove me as an obstacle to your ministry last night. I thought I was dying. And she said, you go on and I'll be the best preacher's wife that I can be, but I won't play the piano and I won't speak in public, but you go on. And David, he goes to Atlanta and they assign him the poorest circuit in the state of Georgia, the Van Wert circuit.
Which is Rockmart.
Yes,
Most
sir.
people don't know that, but if you go over there, there's Van Wert Elementary School.
Yes, sir. That's right. Poorest circuit in the state of Georgia, 1872. They had paid the previous minister $65 for the whole year's wage. So he has $8 to his name, a bobtail pony, and all of his worldly possessions will fit on one horse-drawn wagon. And he makes the trip, the 22-mile trip from Cartersville to Van Wert, gets over there. It was a circuit made up of 5 churches. They didn't provide housing for him, but there was a deacon in the church that graciously offered to rent him a home for $10 a month or $120 a year. Well, they had paid, yeah.
$65,
Yeah.
but I can do the math on that. That
Yeah.
doesn't work out.
Right, it doesn't. But he said, we'll take it. And, you know, David, because he had almost went down to a drunkard's grave, he preached harder probably than anybody that ever lived on alcohol. He would say things like, whiskey's okay in its place, and that place is in hell. And he called it liquid damnation. And his wife said, you know, Sam, you're going to have to tone down your preaching. They're paying our salary. And if you don't tone it down, they're going to starve us to death.
Wait. Let me stop right there. Guys, I'm telling you, you don't want to miss the rest of this story about his wife being fearful that they're going to starve him to death. So we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. And you're going to hear one of the great Sam Jones stories of God providing in an unusual way. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Joshua Goodman with Elite Stone Supply. We sell everything from hardscaping, landscaping, stone, Husqvarna equipment, and premier portable buildings. We can make them from 6x10 all the way up to 16x40. We make garden sheds, garages, cabins, barns, anything you can think of, we can make it happen. Do you need to store Christmas stuff? Do you need to store a lawnmower? We can take care of that. Do you need to get away? Do you need a pool house by your pool? We can make it happen. Come check us out at Elite Stone Supply.
Hi, welcome to Spencer Family Medicine. We're located on Henderson Drive in Weston Commons Shopping Center.
Unlike most medical clinics, we do labs right here in the office, including x-rays, saving you the hassle of scheduling yet another appointment across town.
Here at Spencer Family Medicine, we accept almost all insurance plans.
And we can almost always fit you in for same-day appointments.
We serve patients young to old.
From urgent care issues like broken bones to long-term issues like weight management and hormone therapy.
Not only that, but Dr. Spencer and staff are trained in aesthetic work.
So come to see us at Spencer Family Medicine. We would love for you to be a part of our family.
I'm Dr. Spencer, and I approve this message.
Okay, guys. Ready?
Ready, go.
Hey Cartersville, my name's Bria. I'm the herbalist and manager here at the shop. A lot of us are suffering from sinus problems this time of year. The pollen in Georgia is horrendous. So when you come in, we can customize an herbal program for your specific individual needs. We offer a lot of educational tools so you can be educated on each product. We like ALJ, we like our local honey, we have a variety of teas. We also have natural antihistamines, sinus support. So come see me and let us help you find natural relief.
Hey guys, David Franklin here with Dr. Scott Shepard, our resident local expert on Sam Jones. Guy had an incredible impact. Scott, you were telling the story about provision over at the Van Wert circuit because she thought, Laura, his wife, thought they were going to starve to death.
You know, David, there were some tough times on the Van Wert circuit. I mean, they didn't have anything to eat, not anything to eat. And on one occasion, he was headed out the back door, and she asked him, Sam, where are you going? And he said, I'm going to chop some wood to build a fire so that we can cook on. She said, Sam, there's nothing in this house to eat. There's nothing to cook. And he said, wife, the Lord will provide. And so he's out chopping wood, and a horse-drawn wagon pulled up in front of their home, loaded down with provisions. After they got everything off of the wagon, they stocked the cupboards full. They said they had never seen so much food.
I'm telling you, there's a lot of stories like that. Scott, let's fast forward. He became nationally known. What kind of launched him onto that track?
Well, David, from 1872 to 1880, he pastored churches, and 2,000 people joined the churches that he pastored in those 8 years. He always saw tremendous growth. In 1880, he was approached by an orphanage, the Decatur Orphans Home, a lot of orphans after the Civil War. They were in the red. They asked Sam Jones if he would go around and raise awareness and try to raise some money to save the orphanage. He had made a name for himself as a prolific fundraiser. And so in about a year's time, he brought the orphanage out of the red back into the black, saved it from financial ruin. It's still around today. But in 1885, he's invited to Nashville by some businessmen, Christian businessmen, to hold a revival. So May of 1885, he goes to Nashville. And there's a man in Nashville named Tom Ryman that has made a fortune in all things the liquor business.
Which Sam Jones was against.
Right. And so Sam Jones, he knew about Ryman, and so he started asking around. He said, what's the key to Ryman? And everybody said, what do you mean? And he said, well, everybody's got something that's near and dear to the heart. What is it with Ryman? They said, oh, it's his mother. He loves his mother. He's got a godly Christian mother. May the 10th, 1885, Sam Jones stands to preach under a tent on the corner of Spruce Street and Broad Street in Nashville. And Tom Ryman brings two rowdies in. They're going to beat him up and run him out of town. Sam Jones knows who they are and why they're there. And he says, I know there's some men that have come here tonight to whip me. But if you men will just let me finish my sermon, he said, when I'm finished with you, and when I'm finished, I'll step outside with you and I'll welcome the exercise. He said, I weigh 135 pounds. However, 132 and a half of it is solid backbone. And he preached that night on a boy's mother and the godly influence that a mother has on a little boy's life. Well, at the end of the sermon, Ryman stands and starts walking toward Sam Jones, and all eyes are on Ryman to see what he's going to do. Ryman gets down front, sticks out his hand, and he said, Sam Jones, I came here tonight to whip you, but you've whipped me with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Well, he became the biggest fan Sam Jones ever had. He said, Sam, if you'll come to Nashville 3 or 4 times a year, I'll build you a building big enough to hold the crowds that you draw, and you'll never have to preach in a tent in Nashville again. And he built, of course, David, the Union Gospel Tabernacle for Sam Jones.
Wait. Now, guys, you got to pay attention to this, because this is absolutely the impact of Bartow County worldwide. Built the Union Gospel Tabernacle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and briefly it was named the Jones Ryman Auditorium, but when Tom Ryman died in 1904, Sam Jones went to do his eulogy in Nashville, and at his suggestion said, I think you just should drop the name Jones and just call this the Ryman Auditorium, which they did.
Which is now the home of the Grand Ole Opry.
Yes, sir.
Which was built for a preacher from Cartersville, Georgia, which is just kind of wild and crazy that Scott, where we're standing right now, and you got to come to this house, the Rose Lawn, because Sam Jones, he got this house, and it was a 1-story house, but they actually lifted that story up and built where we're standing right now in the dog trot, really.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They bought this house in 1885, Sam and Laura, and they lived in it 10 years. Jacked that cottage up off of the ground and built this beautiful first floor and a full basement at a cost of $110 in 1895.
Guys, I'm telling you, you need to come here. Now listen, Scott, we're going to come back and do one last segment, and I'm going to ask you one question, and that's, okay, we heard about just one place nationally. I mean, Sam Jones saw over 1 million people get saved. But I want to talk about the impact in Cartersville, Georgia. So we'll be right back, and Scott, we're not the only ones that can come visit here. People get to come here.
Absolutely, David.
Because this is Bartow County's, our government owns this building, and it's our local museum. So we'll be right back to talk about the impact that Sam Jones had here in Cartersville.
Hey, this is Joe Wilson, co-owner of Parnick Jennings Funeral Home, Cartersville's locally owned funeral home, serving all of Bartow County since 1977. The biggest difference of our funeral home here in Bartow County, Cartersville, is that we are a locally owned Funeral Home. We make all our decisions right here in the funeral home. When people walk in the door, they're going to meet the owner and know that we're making decisions on what's best for the families that have placed their trust and confidence in us and the needs of our community. One thing we always say to families that place their trust in us is ask a family we have served. We want people to know that when they come here for probably one of the most difficult experiences in their life, that they can feel comfortable with us. On behalf of myself and all the staff here at Parnick Jennings Funeral Home, we want you to know it would be our honor to serve your family during your time of need. Please call us at 770-382-0034.
Okay. 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 Bye. Okay.
Hello, Cartersville. If you hadn't been by lately, come on by and check us out. We've totally revamped the store. We've added a lot more large capacity washers for your big loads. We have 40 pounders, 60 pounders, and 80 pounders for those huge loads. If you've got large bedding, come on by and see us. We've got the machine you need from a single person all the way up to a multi-family. If you're tired of doing laundry yourself, we offer a wash, dry, and fold service where you can drop it off. A few hours later, come back, it's ready to wear. We're located at 406 North Tennessee Street. It's All American Coin Laundry. Come by and see us for all your laundry needs.
So what are we going to tell them that we offer here at the Fragrance House?
We can start by telling them about our all-natural soy wax candles. They're hand-poured locally, so that's good. And our body scrubs and body sprays that are made with essential oils.
And smell amazing. And then we have to tell them about our fragrances.
Right, and we have the basics like the Polos, the Calvin Klein's, Versace's. Then we have the celebrities as well, like Paris Hilton and Britney Spears.
And then we have the ones that are more exclusive to us.
Right, like the Bond No. 9, the Creed, the House of Oud.
And then we'll price match, but we know we're not going to have to.
Yeah, because we'll probably beat them anyway. So should we write it down?
Yes, probably.
Okay.
Hey guys, David Franklin here with Cartersville Uncut with Dr. Scott Shepard, talking about Sam Jones, just an incredible guy. Scott, his impact in Bartow County was crazy here in Cartersville. But did I hear right that he preached to 1 million people a year for how many years?
25 years, David.
That's incredible. Matter of fact, I mean, my understanding is they built hotels here, people coming out of Atlanta just to come hear him preach. And word has it that some bars closed. How many was that, Scott?
I've heard 17, David.
17 bars closed because of his preaching and stuff. He touched the nation in a special way. But you know, Scott, I think it was his attention to the individual and kindness and wanting to do something for somebody that still impacts us today. So talk about that last part of his life, the last thing he did.
Well, David, in 1906, he was invited to Oklahoma to preach, and he went out there. He pressed his wife to go with him. She rarely traveled with him, but he really pressed her to go to Oklahoma with him. So he goes out to Oklahoma. He spends a series of 2 weeks out there preaching, and his last sermon was entitled Sudden Death. He gets on a train to come back to Cartersville to celebrate his 59th birthday on October the 16th, 1906. And as they board the train, he notices a very sick man and the man's wife in the day car. Now, back then you had to pay extra for a sleeper car. So he called for the porter and he said, "Captain, I saw a sick man and his wife in the day car." And he gave him some money and said, "Have them put up in a sleeper car." So that night, Sam Jones goes to this couple and he says to the lady, he says, "Your husband is obviously very sick." And she said, "He's dying. We've been living out west and his dying wish was that we could come back east so that he could die at home." And he said, "Ma'am, sometimes we run short of funds when we travel. Do you all have enough money to get home?" And she said, "No, we just had enough money to buy tickets to Memphis. I don't know what we'll do when we get to Memphis in the morning." And so he pulls out some money and he gives them some money and he says, "Get a good night's sleep. And when we get to Memphis in the morning, I'll have some more for your meals and for your travels. And those were the last words that anybody heard Sam Jones say. And he went to bed that night, and he woke up October the 15th, 1906, one day shy of his 59th birthday. He felt a little nauseous. He called for the porter to bring him a cup of hot water, got dressed, and by the time the hot water got there, he was dead. Walt Holcomb, who was a preacher who was traveling with Sam Jones that would one day marry Sam Jones's daughter Julia, heard the promise that Sam Jones had made, went into Sam Jones's billfold, took out Sam Jones's money, gave the couple Sam Jones's money, and said, they tried to thank him, and he said, no, don't thank me. That's the last act of kindness that Sam Jones can do on this earth.
You know, Scott, that kind of kindness, we see that in Bartow County even living today. Sam Jones did it not just with whites, with blacks. I mean, that was just who he was known for. And that kind of act of kindness, I think, is significant, and it's what we need to be doing today. That's what Jesus has called us to. He's a man who has had an incredible impact. We hadn't even told, guys, we're leaving so many stories like the impact that Sam Jones had on Amazing Grace in the last verse, but that's for another show, another session, because there's so much. Scott, we're standing in the parlor, and this is where his body lay in state, but also it was down in the Capitol.
Yes, sir, that's right. He lay in state at the Capitol.
I mean, he was incredibly famous across America, and had a huge impact. Guys, you can come here to Roselawn to see this house, and call Scott. I promise you, he'll tell you stories all day long. He can just keep on going and keep on going. But Roselawn, who owns this thing, Scott?
Bartow County bought this house in 1972 for $75,000, so it's owned and operated by Bartow County.
Yeah, and Jane Drew and your wife actually work here. Great folks. Y'all, you need to look around your own community and see some of the treasures here. We think we've got to go every place else. Matter of fact, I think we ought to press David Paul to say, let's go to some of the other places that we know about, incredible stories.
Yes.
So guys, there's way more than this, but thank you for joining this section of Cartersville Uncut to talk about Sam Jones and Scott Shepard.
God bless you. Thank you, David.
You too, Scott. Thank you. Thank y'all.